You're listening to the Nerd to Know Media Network. Join us at nerdtoknowmedia.com.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Doing It for the Exposure, the show that hits all the right notes. I'm your host, Mannequin Blue, and today's special guest is musician, actress, and performer Grace McKenzie.
Hiya.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good. Cheers. How are you?
We're good. We're hanging in there, still in lockdown.
Oh yeah, preach that feeling.
Yeah. It sucks being a creative and you can't do anything.
Honestly, I hit a wall so often anyway. I'm one of those awful performers that will wake up at like 2:30 in the morning. Amazing idea. Where's my notebook? It drives my boyfriend insane. But that's what I'm like. So when you're stuck staring at the same four walls for, God, how long has it been now? Like a year. It feels like a year. You're like, where's my inspiration coming from? I've now written a play about a wall. Like, that's pretty much what I've done. I feel like Shirley Valentine at the start of the film when she's just talking to the wall. Like, I don't know if you've seen that film, but it's hilarious.
Oh, I don't blame you. Oh, I know. I've been painting walls and repainting walls, covering them in.
It's awful. We're in a new build, so again, like as a creative person, you just stare at these big blank white spaces. So I ended up doing a full like music mural on one wall like 3 weeks into the first lockdown because I was like, I need to do something creative.
Nice.
It came out really good. I was quite shocked. Like I finished the doll and then I started drawing the staves and I was like, it's so wonky, it's gonna look awful. But I did what all creative people do where I added glitter and rainbow colors and suddenly it looked amazing. So I was like, yes.
Oh yeah, glitter saves everything.
Yeah, it's a rule. I think they teach you that when you go to any creative degree. They sit you down and they're like, this is how you pass, this is how you get your BA, but also glitter saves everything.
Yeah, and you're like, this is a music course.
Yeah, how does that work? And they're like, just blow it in people's faces. Just bibbity bobbity boo in their face. You'll be fine.
So Grace, you said you're a musician and a performer and an actress. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you got into that?
Yes. So I am Irish. I have the weirdest accent, so anyone listening will probably be very confused, but I've moved around a lot, so I don't always sound Irish. But I grew up in Bray and I joined Bray Junior Musicals Society, which is quite big for anyone who's in Bray will know it. But it was really just like a kids performance group that ended for everyone in it. I mean, we got to sing for the president at the time of Ireland, and we got to go on RTE all the time, and it just kind of at a young age exposed me to the fun of being a performer in all aspects, you know, whether you're tapping on a little bit of lino from your old kitchen or you're performing on stage with Gilbert Sullivan or whatever. Like, it's just a big deal. So I kind of got into that quite quickly, and we have Ardmore Studios in Bray. Well, we don't anymore. I heard it closed. I was really upset, but we used to have the studios there. And yeah, the head of the group was like, we were looking for young people for the new Super Value advert or something like that. And they were like, we showed them your photo and they want to see you. So when I was about 9, I think I got my first really serious filming experience with full crew in a studio, and it was just so much fun. So when I moved to Scotland, I was like, I can't let this go. There's kind of like a high that you get, and it was just so much fun. So when I moved to Scotland, I was like, I can't let this go. There's kind of like a high that you get from it. But it was harder to get back into again. So I kind of kept with the dancing for a long time because there's always ballet classes everywhere. I mean, you're swimming in ballet classes when you move somewhere. You're trying to figure out which one's for you. But the drama stuff was harder. So I then ended up going to UK theatre school, which again, it's kind of the same idea. It's mainly for fun, but if you want to do it for a serious pathway to something else, you can join casting groups and you can do different bits and bobs like that. So yeah, I kind of started that up again when I think I was about 11 or 12, and yeah, just got the bug really bad. I was always into musical theatre as well, but then I also went to a music scholarship school, so I had kind of the best of everything. I was doing formal dance classes with the fun drama, and then formal concerts in Glasgow Music Festival and everything. So it's, people say have a lot of fun, but I also find that when you have a really high quality level of that experience at a young age, you're always trying to find that again. So I had to do it as a degree. Like there was no other option really. I did try and go down programming and computing route, but the theatre called me, so that's where I went. So yeah, so I ended up coming down to London and going to Royal Holloway because they had a really interesting degree where you could do 50-50 BA. So I did a 50% drama, 50% French in first year. And then by the end of first year, I ended up dropping the French anyway. I was like, no, I must be a full-time thespian. It is my thing. I cannot focus on books and learning. I need to be on stage at all times. So I was becoming one of those la-di-das for a while. But yeah, then I got my degree. But even then, when you're doing the degree, all the stuff that you then do through that is insane. So that got me into the radio station, which got me into music journalism, which got me into theatre reviewing for several years after uni, where you go to things like Annie or Matilda and you write up on it just for other people who are interested. So it's one of those ones where it kind of just snowballed constantly. Like even now, it's still snowballing into other things. The type of acting that you're interested in changes. And for me, it's always been staged. But having been locked in the house and that devil social media platform called TikTok that just steals all your time and emotion and you scroll for hours on end, that ended up stealing my attention. So I started doing things like vintage acting, lip syncing points of view videos, which has changed how I do on screen stuff as well. So yeah, it's just insane. And it's hard as well when you're younger because you don't really know which way to go. And everyone always kind of tries to put you in a box. And I think because of how I've got into it, I like to touch on a lot of different types of things. Like I've had a go at the really serious Shakespeare, but I also love a bit of jazz hands and tap dancing. So it was hard for me for ages to find an agent that I really vibed with. I had a few that they were absolutely lovely, but I just couldn't quite fit in the box that they wanted me to fit in, which was unfortunate. But then I ended up getting a new agent just before lockdown as well, which is really annoying. But she's amazing. Like she treats all of us as we're us, and then she gets the jobs that fits around us instead of trying to push us into like a square hole when we're shaped like a circle or a triangle or whatever, which is what the old agencies felt a little bit like. So even then, like even during lockdown, I've still been doing video self-tape auditions and things like that. So it's been interesting, but like I said, it's hard to keep the creative juices flowing when you're kind of stuck in the same 5 class for weeks on end. But yeah, so that's how I kind of got to where I am now, which is a bizarre and crazy story, but anyone who knows me will think that fits with my personality.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. And like we do get quite a few artists on the show as well who do, you know, a bit of everything. And usually it's for different reasons. It can be because, you know, they just felt like the one niche thing that they were really good at kind of wasn't as marketable and they had to diversify. But you've actually gone into it thinking just, I love everything. I want to do everything.
Yeah, just give me a little bit of everything, which is, it's really useful for stage actors. I think the reason that it works for me is because I didn't start off doing like a screen class or TV acting class. Like the first thing I did was the type of shows that BJMS, Bray Junior Musical Society, used to do, which was literally like a little bit of My Fair Lady, goes into a bit of Grease, goes into a bit of, you know, Wizard of Oz, and sort of things that we would do on stage, and there'd be dance breaks and other things. So I think when you're someone who wants to work on stage, you get used to needing a lot of more skills. Like it's like when Joey on Friends is like, just say yes to everything. Like, can you ride a horse? Yes, I can. No, you can't, but you say you can, and you try and make sure that you can by the time you need to, because you don't want to fall off the horse. But it's a lot more frequent when you're doing stage work for someone to say, oh, by the way, as well as doing this and this, we also need you to like help with the lighting plan or something like that. I mean, a good example was a couple of years ago, I was working just for an exam board, trying to pay them bills that keep coming in no matter what you do. And I made a friend with someone who was in as a temp, and we ended up connecting over musical theater, and we had a great time. And she told me that she went to a workshop with a writer and a lyricist from America called Sam Carner and Derek, his name's anyway, she went to the workshop and she had a great time. They kind of do a lot of very, very, very American musicals, you know, very observant kind of musicals. Think Hamilton, but less rap, kind of like that. And she had such a good time and she connected with them online. So by the time I started chatting to her, she was like, I've actually talked to them about being the first person to put on a UK production of their new musical, which is called Island Song. And anyone in the musical theater world will potentially know it, because Jeremy Jordan, who we all revere as one of our many gods, was one of the kind of test voices for the demo tracks when they were finishing the CD. So she had this potential offer for very little money for a licensing, which is very rare when it comes to putting on a show. But she didn't have any of the background on producing or lighting or sound or whatever. And because my degree was in that, I did. So it went from chatting over cake in the staff room to about 4 months later putting on a fully fledged performance in London, which is absolutely terrifying as well. Because as soon as you tell anyone in London that you're putting on a show, they want to know how close to the West End you are. And I was like, it's off, off. You know, off Broadway is a term. They should have off West End as a term. But it went really well. And we kind of opted for a performance concert instead. And through that, I've opted for a performance concert instead. And through that, I was kind of originally asked to come on as just one of the main characters. And then within a few weeks, it was, well, I'd also love your opinion on the casting. And then it was, what do you think of this sound and this lighting and whatever. And we just ended up kind of co-producing the entire thing. We shared all of the work because she had experience in some stuff that I didn't, and I had experience in other stuff. And it all came together. It actually ended up being really good. It was a one night only performance, but from my nerve levels, you would think I was putting on a fully fledged £100,000 show in Victoria Theatre or something. But it went really well. And it was just another one of those ones where you do it because it's fun and you do it to see what happened. It was fully profit participant, which was a scary approach, but it turned out well. We did make some money each, which was really nice, because we were kind of expecting most shows do, especially because it was our first one. But yeah, it turned out really great. And not only that, but we cast people that we thought were excellent. But again, they were other stage people. So as soon as they arrived, they were like, I also have experience in this or this. So it became just a massive collaborative thing. And that's what stage people do. And unfortunately, sometimes if you start off on screen first and then try and learn into stage, it's quite hard to get that mentality. Whereas I think if you start with stage first, by the time you get to screen, you're like, yeah, I can do that. I can also do it this way or this way. I can do it on my head. I can do it whilst playing the ukulele in a grass skirt if you want me to, you know? So yeah, it's a weird way, but I think a lot of us do many things, as you said, but it's funny how you can tell who's a musical theater stagey person and you can tell who's a screen person, because everyone's as talented as each other, but it's just that the difference of like doing it because you need to or doing it just because it's another string to your bow that you just really want to do. You just have a day where you want to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I wouldn't be one of those people who's kind of in with theater at all. Like, I do have friends that work in theater and I kind of help them out every now and then, but it seems to me that it does kind of go the way that a lot of people who work in theater, they do on stage and off stage and, you know, background and everything. Like when I was a couple of years younger, let's say, I spent a bit of time in New York. And I used to meet so many people that I would say, oh, what do you do? And they'd say, well, I'm an actor, but at the minute I'm working, you know, lighting for a show, because sometimes it can be so difficult to try and get yourself out there. And like, especially in, you know, places like New York and London, where there is such a high caliber.
Yeah. And it's especially if you're braver than I am, where you pull the trigger and go 100%, then yeah, you kind of need to get work wherever you can. And that's why I'm sure everyone's seen the retrain thing that came out in the I don't know if it came over as far as you guys, but
we had some choice memes come out of that one. I think we actually shared a few on our social media.
Yeah, that was fun. But it was one of those things where I didn't necessarily get angry at it because I thought like the concept was entirely wrong. But it was funny because it just made me laugh because I was like, are you saying that we don't have other skills? Because we've all waited tables, we've all worked bars till God knows when, we've all been temps in some kind of office. Like, it's hilarious because we don't just sit around listening to show tunes when we're not on stage. We do have to pay the bills. And I think there's not many of us that are musicians as well as performers. Like, when we say musicians, like, they often mean they're singers as well, which is my main. I'm trying to brush up on my piano as well. So, like, again, it's another thing that when we're not doing that, we're doing this, or we're doing that or whatever. And I used to sing for weddings and things as well, because growing up Irish, you've got experience in the church world and whatever. So I was always the kind of chorister person for the wedding ceremonies and things like that as well. So it just made me laugh really, because I was like, we don't need to retrain. We are already doing like 8 jobs.
Yeah. There was actually a really funny one. A friend of mine, she's been on the show before. I don't know if you listened to her episode, Fifi LaRue.
Yes.
And she did I think, didn't the English government put out like a test that would, like an aptitude test that would tell you what you were good at. And she used to be a circus clown. And now she does like burlesque, but also still very clowny, all that kind of thing. And she took the aptitude test and it told her that she should be a circus clown. Like, you can't make this stuff up.
No.
Like, you can't make this stuff up.
No, that's fate. It's fate. She should have taken a screenshot and sent it to Boris or everyone who's in charge over that way and just go, there you go. I'm doing what I need to do.
Yeah.
Mine told me I should be a teacher. I took it for the crack because I was like, let's see what happens. I was kind of expecting it to tell me to be something really straight-laced, which I'm sure probably a teacher is actually. But yeah, it was just really funny. But I am like, again, like, I'm also a performing arts teacher when I'm not running around doing it myself. I've got adorable little 2-year-olds learning how to point their toes. So I was like, again, I'm already doing what you're telling me to do. But you've also closed that work as well. Like, that's also shut. Like, what else am I supposed to do?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, they're telling us to reskill, but the things they're telling us to reskill into are the things we're already doing.
Yeah. So it's like, how, like, just give me the new job then. Just start paying me. It's fine. I will happily take that paycheck.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, even a friend of mine that works in theater here, he's a drama teacher as well. So he'd be in the same boat, he's sitting there going like, you're telling me to do this, but I can't do it.
Yeah, I know, exactly. It's mental. I mean, so I work with a group over this way called Razzmatazz, which again is just an amazing name. And it's been so hard. Like, we've had to do online lessons, and like the really, really young ages, they do like crafts and things, and that's really hard to do over Instagram and things like that. But the students themselves, again, they're all amazing. Like, everyone has the same energy at the moment of just like, I'm going to do whatever I can. So they still get up at 7 a.m. on a Saturday and do their stretches and do their dance class, but it's just on a computer instead. So I don't think anyone needs to retrain. I think we just need to fill the void until everything opens again, saying, because otherwise I'll cry.
Yeah, I don't think I would agree with you. I don't think it's that we need to retrain and reskill because, like we said, some of us have so many skills already. It's just that we need a system put in place where we can actually do the things that we already do safely.
Yeah. And it's hard, especially like there's a lot of things going on in London this time around, second lockdown, where anyone who has already been cast in any kind of show, they're renting apartments together, or they're talking to theaters about the fact that they're already shut. So some of them are just living in the theater, like genuinely they're ordering pizza in, and they've got sleeping bags so that they can work and rehearse together in a bubble so that they can then perform together, like regardless of whether the audience will be there in person or virtually. It still means they'll be together, which is really cool. But I also just love the way that people have kind of, like you said, we need a system, but I think a lot of people have already started coming up with some on their own. I mean, I watched Zoom performance of Shakespeare's The Tempest about 5-6 weeks into first lockdown, and it was absolutely amazing. I mean, the things that they thought of for when characters need to touch or anything like that, they had a different person playing the hands in a different place, but they lined all the screens up to make it look like they were just reaching across the screen. Like, it was incredible the way that everyone was like, this show seriously must go on. Like, they genuinely came up with some crazy and awesome ways of doing it.
Yeah, no, I will always be amazed at how creative people can be. Like, even like you said, with things like that, you know, where you wouldn't think, okay, we need to get creative with this, but like using someone else's hands, like I would never think of that.
Yeah, it was, and I mean, it was even things like they had they had corporate calls with Zoom themselves to figure out how the algorithm would display the where the screen, you know, where the screens land on each part of the computer screen, to make sure that the person reaching out from their left hand would line up with the left hand then on the table touching the other person's right hand leading out from their right side of their screen. Like, it's just incredible. It kind of made you think for a second, like, oh, they are actually not there, right? Like, are they touching? I'm so confused. It was just incredibly done.
I mean, at that point, do you have like mathematicians involved or what's going on?
I definitely think some physics calculations were involved, which is beyond me. That's when I would be like, yeah, no, I'm done. I step out. That's not my thing.
That is commitment, like to the max.
Yeah, definitely. But it was very cool.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. But just no, that's crazy. But just, you know, apart from lockdown, because you know, that's kind of, you know, we're in it, we know what it is, it's affecting everyone, but so just taking lockdown out of it for a second, what kind of other struggles would you have faced then, you know, being a multifaceted actor, performer, stage person, all that kind of stuff?
I think the thing that I find personally is it kind of comes back to that putting me in the box thing. So, like, if I was to connect up with a band that wanted me to be the singer, so we could do regular gigs or weddings or what have you, or if someone wants me to be their performing arts teacher multiple days a week or something like that, sometimes it's really hard to try and explain that you still want to be able to do everything else. So, I mean, the acting stuff comes and goes whenever the opportunity arises, but you do kind of need to be able to say to whoever's offering you that, yeah, of course, especially when it comes to extra work, which I do just for the fun of it, so that you can be on set and keep learning, because I know loads of people do extra stuff and they get really bored. You know, they'll read a whole book in a day, because you're sitting around doing not a lot. But I'm one of those sad film geeks who will be standing just kind of watching what the production crew is doing if I'm not on camera, because I find it incredibly interesting, having studied behind the scenes as well as in front of it. So even when it comes to that, you get maybe 2 days notice. So my struggle before was trying to balance a semi-permanent job that could cover the important things like food and makeup and clothing that I buy too much of, but also be able to kind of drop in and out, which is, it's really, really hard to do. I mean, I have a friend, very good actor, and he's done a lot of stuff. And in my old job, he had a kind of agreement when he joined the office that if he got offered a big role, he would be allowed to take kind of like unpaid leave at any time, which is an incredible agreement to have, really. But he had the credits to allow him to do that. You know, he was working on, what's it called, the one that J.K. Rowling wrote about the detective or whatever it was on BBC at the time, that he was working on that season 1. So like, he was able to kind of drop in and out. But when you're doing random theater stuff, it's got less of a clout unless it's West End, which is really hard. So for a while I was struggling to kind of balance everything out, and I got a really great balance last April. So not April, just gone, year before that, where I was in a role working in a school on marketing, and I kind of was really honest with them. I was like, this isn't really a fight, but I don't really want to take on any more. So would you guys be cool with me dropping back to 3 days, which then gave me 2 self-employed days a week to do anything, which is fantastic. So it means, you know, if you want to go and teach Zumba all day on a Wednesday, then you can accept those gigs. Or if you've got a chance to do an audition, then you can book in on the Friday then that you're not working. So that was a really big struggle for a really long time. I mean, I was already out of uni 4 years before I managed to get a decent balance. And that's something that works for me, but it might not work for other people because I kind of lucked into a role that could be reduced. A lot of the time, if you go straight in on a part-time role, there's even less flexibility because they're already offering it to you part-time. So they don't want you to move anything around anymore. Whereas for me, because I was quite honest and negotiated it down, it was also things like if once in a while I need to switch a day round, they weren't that bothered so long as I gave them like that. So that was a big struggle for a long time with the balance. The other struggle with the musician side is the contacts, because I moved down to Kent just over 2 years ago. And you may as well have moved to a whole other country. As soon as you're outside of a London zone, your contacts are gone. You've got to rebuild that entire network that you have. And musicians and singing and bands and gigs and things, it's harder to do that. I don't know why, but there seems to be a little bit more of a protectiveness about letting new people into a network like that. They have their groups and they have their bands and they have their regular venues, and it's quite hard to break into that, especially if you're just one person. I didn't move down with an entire jazz band. I would have loved to. I don't have the space to fit them all into so again, it's hard. It's kind of like starting from the get-go again. Whereas the acting, people expect you to travel. They expect you to kind of come up to London for one day for a 20-minute audition and then go home again. But with musicians, it's harder. So that's something I'm still struggling to make the contacts and get the gigs again. It's interesting.
Yeah, that was always something I found with any kind of art form that you're doing. It's not what you know and how good you are. It's all who you know. And like you said, sometimes it can be so hard to break into something, if you're new or if you're new in the area or anything like that. And it can be frustrating. And like, I don't blame you.
Yeah, it's not like anyone's rude or anything. It's just that they don't know you. Like, they don't know your talent level, and you have such a reputation, and you don't want to be that person to potentially sponsor someone to come into the group, and then they turn out to potentially sponsor someone to come into the group, and then they turn out to be awful or something. It's hard to kind of let them in. Whereas with theater, it's quite easy sometimes. If someone's not the best at dancing, they're usually incredible at singing or something else, so you can kind of win over with the better talent and maybe push them to the back with the worser one. But it's harder with something more isolated, like musicians or singers or instrumentalists, because that's it. That is your one chance to make a good impression. So yeah, it's weird. And also Kent, for me, like growing up in Ireland, I did not know Kent was so huge. I didn't realize it was the entire, pretty much, of the lower half of England. When I started dating someone from Kent, I was like, yeah, Kent is like a town, right? It's not a, oh, I'm so bad at geography. So I was like, yeah, it won't be too hard to get new contacts and stuff. But yeah, no, I was wrong. But yeah, no, I was wrong. I'm not good with geography at all.
Oh, no.
I was like, no. But I've got to say, though, that's when Facebook comes in so handy, because the groups that you can join are incredible. You've got Actors UK and Ireland, you've got Actors UK, you've got Singers Southeast, Singers London, and it makes it easier, because then someone might post one day going, oh God, we're playing a wedding and someone's got laryngitis, help. And then you can kind of take that opportunity to say, here's a link to my YouTube, or here's a link to my SoundCloud, like maybe I can help you out. Is it the right type of sound you're looking for? And then it's a bit easier. It's definitely easier than it would have been a couple of years, 10, 15 years ago, when we didn't have that. It would have been all flyers out on the street begging people to give me work.
Now you just you can sit back a little bit and just wait for an opportunity and go.
I can beg, but whilst in my pajamas on my couch, instead of kind of outside a gig club, like, let me play.
What a time to be alive.
I know. But yeah, I mean, but talking about like connecting with people though, like I said, I had a lot of creative blocks during the lockdown, but some of the contacts I've made are awesome. I've done like a transatlantic duet with someone who's in Canada. I've made an amazing new friend. Like, I've never physically met her, but she's awesome. Her name's Anna, and we've done a duet together, and we're working on another one. You know, it's mental. Like, you find someone and then you start talking to them every day and they're like your new bestie, but you've never actually seen their face. It's insane.
So cool.
Yeah.
And just speaking of social media, if people want to keep up to date with you, where's the best place to do that?
Instagram is probably the one I go to because I'll cross post to other stuff, but I am good at answering Facebook marketing as my day job anyway. So if anyone does talk to me or want to interact with stuff, I'm almost always on it. So it makes it easier to find, but it's at Grace MC Music for pretty much all platforms.
Awesome. And we're gonna link everything up anyway as well, so that people can find you easier, which, you know, is very important.
It depends what mood they're in, what they want to hear. If they want to hear like really cool music stuff, SoundCloud's where you want to go. If you want cool artsy stuff, it's Instagram. And if you just want to look at me being an absolute wally, then TikTok is the place to go.
We get a lot of people on here that are talking about TikTok. I am like an old fart. So I'm not up with the TikToks, but like, is it really worth the time?
So I got dragged into it. I'm kind of kicking and screaming a little bit. It was 2 of lockdown when everyone was doing those dances. And my regular drama students who, like, obviously I couldn't see them. A lot of the seniors were doing the TikToks, and they were kind of messaging all of the teachers, like challenging us to do it. And unfortunately, I am really competitive, and if someone challenges me to do something, I'm gonna do it. So I say we because I dragged my boyfriend in as well. The kids absolutely loved him being in all the dance videos too, but we kind of downloaded it one night and I didn't get it. I kind of sat there just kind of looking at people lip syncing to goats singing Taylor Swift, and I was like, it's like YouTube but worse. Like, I don't understand what is going on. But eventually you kind of, I don't know, you're scrolling through absolute rubbish at 3 a.m. and then you think, I could do that. You have a go. And honestly, it's addictive once you start kind of getting any kind of engagement. It's very different to Instagram or Facebook, where you work hard and you can boost things and you can kind of help it reach out to the people you want to see it. TikTok is random. The algorithm is insane. You don't understand how it works. I mean, I worked really hard on actual singing videos for an entire month. I think I did every day of the month was a challenge of a musical theater song, and I did every day, and I barely got anyone looking at it. And then the day before Hamilton came out on Disney, I filmed him walking onto the screen on top of the star where it goes, Alexander Hamilton, boom. And that was it. It was about 10 seconds. And I hit 12,500 views on TikTok of that one thing. I was like, my face isn't even on the screen right now. This makes no sense. So yeah, it's weird. It's like a challenge. I mean, if you like maths problems or crazy puzzles, it's kind of like that, because you're like, I want to figure out how to do this. I don't understand how it works.
What do you people want from me?
I know, it's insane. I mean, you could work for hours on a full cosplay of, like in my case, Alice in Wonderland, and you spend hours on your makeup and you get it perfect and it looks great, and maybe 100 people see it. And then you could do a video to some David Dig soundtrack about Trump and Biden and walk on the screen and just kind of drop a mic, and you'll hit 20,000 views in about 10 minutes. And it's like, what? This makes no sense.
Why don't you like my talent?
It does feel like that sometimes.
Oh. Oh, I might hold off for a bit then. I don't know if I can handle the pressure of that along with everything else.
My advice to anyone who's thinking of getting it is, it's so much fun once you get it, but if you have anything you need to focus on, work, life, relationships don't get it, because it's like Reddit but video. So you will fall down a hole and you will find yourself 10 hours later watching multiple videos of the same sound used over and over again until your partner walks in and goes, I'm gonna lob that phone out of the window if you don't stop watching that. Because to anyone who can't see the screen, it sounds like you're just watching the same 10 seconds over and over again, whereas you're obviously watching a different person doing a different type of thing to it. But it will drive you nuts. It will make you an insane person, and most of us in this industry are already kind of 99%.
That's what it is. Maybe it's kind of like, look, we know we're crazy, we're just gonna go with it at this point.
It's true. I mean, honestly, I tried really hard to stay quite professional and high quality, like I would if I was posting a video to YouTube, and eventually I gave up. I mean, I think there's a TikTok of me somewhere finding out that if you Google the characters from Friends, and there's like little icons that do things in the corner, where if you click on the couch, it's Ross screaming pivot. But I filmed it at 5 a.m. and it makes no sense to anyone, but it makes me laugh. So so I posted it.
I think that was something Fee had said about TikTok as well, is that when she started out, you know, she was doing, because she obviously does her burlesque and she was doing all of that kind of stuff, but now it's just basically videos of her plants.
Yeah, it's insane. Or birds, or I mean, my dog has his own account and he gets more views than I do, and then all he does is sit there and wag his tail a little bit, and I mean, he is absolutely adorable, so I get it. But it's like, I could do that. If I had a tail, I could do that.
Why are you more popular than me? Popular than me. Oh, that's awesome. But just because I'm keeping an eye on the time here, I don't want to keep you too long. Is there anything that we haven't touched on yet that you would love to talk about before we go?
Yes, I am hopefully going to be doing a Christmas album in the next couple of weeks that I would love anyone to have a listen to. I had planned to kind of team up with a local charity that I do a lot with here, which is this amazing hospice in Maidstone. They're so cool. They do Santa days and elf days and everything at Christmas. But obviously what's going on, it's going to just be me this time. But yeah, it's going to be kind of the traditional Christmassy loviness, and there's probably going to be lots of photos of fairy lights involved. And yeah, if anyone wants to have a look, it will hopefully be coming out in the next couple weeks. My aim is before December so that people can listen to it. I have a issue with people doing Christmas albums too soon, because I used to work in retail, and from about the 2nd of November you listen to the same 30 Christmas songs over and over and over again. So I have a rule that I don't really do it too early anymore. So yeah, it'll hopefully be out on all the social media platforms before Christmas, before December. I can't promise how many songs there will be, because it depends on inspiration, but there will definitely be at least one somewhere.
Well, we'll definitely keep an eye out for that, and we'll throw it up once it's even if, you know, if we don't see it, if you want to send it to us, we'll chuck it up for you as well, get you some views on that.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Oh, of course. Yeah. So Grace, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on to talk to us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having with everyone who's on it. So I'm feeling a little bit starstruck being on it myself, not gonna lie.
Oh, well, we're always happy to have you, and anyone who wants to be on the show. Just everyone is welcome. Like, we do get people who say, "Oh, I'm not good enough to be on the show," and I'm like, "Stop it."
Everyone,
yeah, we want everyone. Everyone is welcome. This is what we want. This is what we're about.
I love it.
So thank you so much for coming on.
Cheers. Yeah, I hope you guys have a great day, and yeah, I'll keep in touch.
And if you enjoyed this episode of Doing It for the Exposure and would like to hear more in the future, make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at DIFTE Podcast. You can also check out our stream on nerdtoknowmedia.com. We stream weekly on Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you for listening to Nerd to Know.
Join us at nerdtoknowmedia.com.